All right, a lot of people have asked us if we have plans for sale or otherwise of our rabbit hutches, and unfortunately we don't. But I figured the best thing I can do is to walk you through the measurements basically live on camera and to show you a little bit in a B-roll how we built those hutches, because I just winged them. I came up with that on paper and I started building, so we don't really have anything, that I could hand out, unfortunately. But as you can see, we have two different hutches and they are the same dimensions with the exception that this is not quite as high or tall as this one is. This one we built a little taller, so we have more room on the inside, especially for the kids when they want to step in so they don't bang their head all the time. But they are the same length, they're the same depth, just the height that's a little bit different. And so I guess what we can do is now just walk through the basic construction. I use 2x4s for the most part, except for the doors. And what I did is I basically took I think this is an 8-foot 2x4. Yep, that's exactly 8 foot. And this one is, this one is 5 feet tall. So this is the less tall version of our hutch. So 8, 5, and then we have just over 4 feet in depth. And that's pretty much it. It's a very simple box construction at the end of the day. Nothing fancy to it. And the windows here on this one, or the cutouts for the windows, are about 42 inches by 23 roughly. And we have two windows, as you can see, that open to the outside. Fairly simple. The one thing we did was just to add some structure and stability, we added those 2x4s here. They are 43 inches long. And in retrospect, what I would have done is, because this doesn't go into the ground, this is level on the ground, so it, if there is flooding or rain, whatever, it doesn't flood the tunnels because our rabbits can dig. In retrospect, what I should have done differently is I should have given them a little bit less dirt to dig, because we added here, well, let's say 2.5 feet of dirt where they can dig. They don't really need that much. And the problem is now that this 2x4 here is basically cuts that entire hutch roughly in half. And I figured aesthetically that would be a good thing to do. In retrospect, however, since we use a deep litter method, meaning that we keep adding on and adding on and adding on pine shavings, this thing is going to come so high up that the nipples that I'm going to walk over here to this one where you can see it better, that the nipples then here were so, there was not a lot of room for the rabbits to really, drink from those nipples. And I couldn't move this guy, obviously. So I was kind of, stuck a little bit. And fortunately, here we did a little bit better. We didn't fill it up quite as tall. So I would recommend, 1.5 feet, maybe 2 feet should be plenty for them to dig. Otherwise, you could raise this up here a little bit more and provide for enough room for those nipples so the rabbits can actually drink, and you can attach the feeder. This one, for reference, because it's a little bit taller, it's just over, it's 6.5 feet tall. So I like this one a little bit bigger, a little bit better, because it's bigger. It provides, a little bit more room. You can get in and out easier if you need to do something, like when we attach the hay feeder. But again, same concept overall. The windows or doors here are obviously a little bit bigger. Now, one thing we did is with the roofing, we opted for metal roofing rather than plastic, because the metal here reflects really well, so it doesn't get quite as hot when the sun hits it. And we use the same panels, the same metal panels down here. Here, you could have gone with plastic or with wood or something else. It's not really that important, but on the back also, that's where the sun comes in, so it reflects a bunch of that sunlight and the heat. And so it stays cooler on the inside, and the rabbits, even though they can burrow, it's a little bit more comfortable. And the roofing side, we just made sure we had, a good amount of overhang. This roof here, I think that panel is, so this is a 12-foot panel, and we are using 3 panels. 3 of those 12 They are 12 by 2, technically 2.5 because you want to overlap them a little bit, but that gives it enough overhang on all sides, mostly on the sides here, on the left and the right, to avoid rain from getting in when it rains heavily. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's fairly straightforward. Again, a simple box. The panels here are mostly meant to prevent the dirt from coming out. So there is mesh wire, and on those cages we use 1-inch hardware cloth. We could have gotten with something a little bit finer, but it wasn't really necessary. I mean, yes, technically small mice and small rodents could get through. We have not had any rodent issues. If you do have rodent issues, I recommend maybe going with a 1/2 inch or even a 1/4 inch hardware cloth. It's a little bit more expensive, but it works really well to keep everything out. We have also hardware cloth on the bottom, but a little bit of a wider one. I think it's a 2x3 or something, so the rabbits cannot dig out. That's important because they will dig out if they have the opportunity. And yeah, that's pretty much it. All of our feeders are on the inside. We could also use them on the outside. That's a possibility, but we put them on the inside to prevent, when it rains really hard, from moisture getting in and from potentially ruining the pellets. We have hay in there. Those are homemade hay feeders, and then all of our watering system is done with nipples. You can see them here, maybe then in the close-up. We have 2 nipples for each of the hutches. They are connected to the, I think it's a 3/16th diameter hose, and all of that is connected to our house supply. So all of the 3 hutches that we have here, the one that's off camera as well, they are connected to our house water, which is filtered. We have a whole house filtration system, so the water comes in, goes through a pressure reducer. That's very important because otherwise it would not work with those nipples, and so they have always fresh water. We used to do buckets, but you have to clean them, you have to refill them, etc. And so being connected to the main supply is significantly easier. And that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, any specific measurement that I didn't cover, just let me know in the comments and I'll measure it for you and post it in the comments. But other than that, it's fairly straightforward. It takes maybe $200 worth of lumber or material, maybe $250 to build. Takes a couple of hours, fairly straightforward. And yeah, we've had great success with those hutches and we'll continue using them. See you in the next video.